And welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in today for this ALA Solutions Series webcast. Today we're real pleased to welcome Tom Hazel with Pitney Bowes, and he'll be talking about the efficient firm, new shipping workflows that save time and expense. For those of you coming out to Los Angeles for the upcoming ALA Annual Conference and Expo, you'll be able to visit Tom in person at the Pitney Bowes booth. So please make an opportunity to get out and see Tom in LA. Here's a little bit about Tom. First off, if you guys don't know, Pitney Bowes is a global organization well known for postage and carrier management. They're in over 100 countries, do roughly $4 billion in revenue each year, and have somewhere in the neighborhood of 14,000 employees. Tom is actually the channel director for carrier management solutions for Pitney Bowes in the United States and Canada. He started with Pitney Bowes in 1985, and over the past 31 years, Tom's roles have ranged from customer service to sales with increasing responsibilities, including sales director in Florida, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and other regions for Pitney Bowes. Tom's currently responsible for managing the Carrier Management Solutions product group for the U.S. and Canadian field organization, as well as the North American inside sales channels. In his current role, he sits on several postal, education, and development and direction committees within the organization and conducts client educational webcasts like today throughout the year on behalf of Pitney Bowes. He also speaks at various postal customer council events, and he was one of the country's first certified postal consultants with Pitney Bowes. He's earned the President's Award, presented annually to one director nationwide, and many Global President's Forum Awards. We're real pleased to bring you Tom today, and with that, I'd like to introduce Tom Hazel.
Hey, Sean, good morning, and good morning, everyone out there, and good afternoon, depending on your time zone. So I greatly appreciate everybody's time today. And I look forward to being out in LA and meeting many of you, and in fact, hopefully all of you. I did attend the Nashville event, which was a phenomenal event, and I was highly impressed by the number of people that stopped at our booth and just were kind enough to say, hey, I know Pitney Bowes, I use you guys, you're a great company, so look forward to that as well. But what I did find out, though, is a lot of folks weren't familiar with us when it came to managing the carrier side of the business. So they knew us from our postage meters. We vetted them 96 years ago at this point, but from a carrier standpoint, there wasn't a lot of knowledge around that. So it's a good opportunity today for us to talk about some of the challenges in the legal market as it pertains to the carrier piece overall. We'll take you through a case study, an actual customer-client profile, if you will, of an actual law firm we've worked with. We'll talk about desktop shipping and really understanding the impact of desktop shipping overall. And we'll obviously provide some opportunities to help you improve in those areas and give you some ideas around that as well. So from a standpoint of what's going on today in firms, I likely don't have to tell anybody on the phone this. You know, firms today compete with a lot of other organizations, in-house legal counsel, boutiques, accounting firms offering also legal advice and so forth, arbitrators, consultants, and others. So there's a lot of competition today in the legal market overall. And managing and reducing operational costs really has become a strong focus of many firms today to satisfy the stakeholders and the revenue side of the business overall. So becoming more efficient, reducing operational costs, providing better operational excellence really is a focus today, many firms that we work with and many firms overall. And from the carrier standpoint, UPS, FedEx, even the post office, they're dramatically increasing the rates every single year. Another rate increase was effective beginning of the year. It's another 5% increase for both FedEx and UPS. And then the post office also increased some of the rates on the parcel side. However, they will be lowering the rates, believe it or not, on the letter side in April, believe it or not. But over the last 5 years, if you really look at the carrier costs and their increases, it's more than a 35% increase in cost overall. And the challenge around that is that you have to try to rein in some of that and avoid some of the non-value-added fees associated with the carrier spend overall. And then your clients are really asking for more detail around, okay, what were these charges for? What were these charges about? Why the additional fees involved? I pay this to FedEx or UPS. Why am I paying that to you? So those questions do become a bone of contention at different points in times. And then a lot of firms that we work with today, and I've worked personally with, they're being moved into flat fee negotiation. So it isn't that they have the ability to charge every line item. Flat fees are really starting to become more prevalent in the legal market today overall. And a lot of firms are, because of that, and because of other instances, they're absorbing some of the carrier costs, a good portion in some cases, rather than being able to bill them back to their clients overall. So in looking at how we handle these simple day-to-day tasks really will make a difference. And when, I always look at things quite simply. What gets measured gets managed. If you have things in place to measure activity, whether it be performance of employees, whether it be performance of the carriers, or your overall economics and spend of operating budgets, what gets measured really gets managed and gets attended to overall. So take a look at a case study here today. So in this case, this is a actual client, 12-location law firm, full-service law firm. But I would argue that any information around a 12-location really would pertain to a 20-location, 30-location, single location, or a couple-location firm overall. So in this case, though, their annual postage spend was $350,000. Every site had a postage meter with Pitney Bowes, and they were all counting on that postage meter to keep track of the United States postal spend and the spend around that piece. Their FedEx spend, in meeting with the CEO, we sat down with the CFO of the organization. Their FedEx spend was presented to me to be $1.5 million, spread amongst these 12 locations, some obviously more than others. Client presented that they were only utilizing FedEx. There was no other carriers involved, but I asked specifically that we get deeper into accounts payable, take a look at any bills from any other carriers. And at that point, it was determined that they also had some UPS spend at 6 of the 12 locations, and that amounted to not $1.5 million, but another $180,000. The surprise there on the firm's part was they thought they'd actually standardize that, and that every location was, in fact, to use FedEx overall. So that wasn't the case. And then when you looked at the accounts receivable side, having that kind of spend and having that many locations, including now UPS at some of those locations, that amounted to 72 carrier invoices per month, and everything being on 10-day terms of those 72 invoices. And then they were taking those invoices and essentially in accounts payable weekly, going through them and assigning that spend manually and billing back the services to the client side. So they were independently going through every bill, looking for the client matter number on the bill. Hopefully it was in the remarks field. If it wasn't, it took a lot of investigation. So there's a lot of room for errors around that piece overall. But that was just a total manual process. And from a standpoint of usage, there really were no specific rules around who could use what. So anybody could overnight, anybody could send 8:30 a.m., Saturday delivery, things of that nature. So they really didn't have any accountability back to what services could be used. And obviously the same thing associated with carrier chargeback. So if the client matter number wasn't in a remarks field, it wasn't in a remarks field, it was just that simple. And then last but not least, they were doing return receipt, certified return receipt, utilizing the green card still. So manually filling out the green cards for certified return receipt, letter mail as well. And when they looked around that and kind of investigated each location and how they did things, some sites were taking the green cards and imaging them. Others were just putting them in a file folder. Others were just putting them in a desk drawer. So there was really no standard around the green cards when they did come back overall. So it took a little bit of time to go through this, about a week or two. But once we went through it, we were able to present a case to help them with a lot of these opportunities overall. So in looking at carrier management for this firm and any firm overall, really helped them address many different areas of the business model and the needs around compliance, around workflow improvements, and so forth. So from a cost control standpoint, we standardized the firm's workflow and processes for all carriers. So the same application that can do UPS also can do U.S. Postal Service, can also do FedEx. So they were attuned to the fact that some locations were likely going to stick with UPS, but if they had a single interface to capture all the costs, they were fine with that process overall. Knowing full well, certain locations have their favorites as far as the carriers are concerned. And we worked with them to eliminate a lot of non-value added carrier fees like address correction and things of that nature, which really can add up very quickly. The carriers today charge $13 per incident for a bad address. So you get a directional wrong, street instead of road, miss a suite number. Those are chargeable non-value-added fees that you likely can't recoup from the client overall. And really provide cost controls around all their carrier work with UPS, with FedEx, with DHL, with United States Postal Service to make sure we precisely, and they can precisely capture all carrier cost. And that helps them from a standpoint of compliance, reducing risk, that they can prove through our application and carrier management that they actually did send the piece out, the time and date stamp of it, and then obviously that it was delivered. Again, the time and date stamp can be provided there. So from a productivity standpoint, it really allowed that the accounting department that billed in the past, we eliminated that process through electronic movement of data. So we captured all the costs by client matter number. We feed that information electronically to a shared drive within their application, and then they import that information automatically. So no longer is somebody in accounting keying from 72 invoices a month manually. And we're also validating all client matter number entries so that it is 100% accurate as well. And then we're automating all the return receipts as well, so they're done through the same application. So we are automating and standardizing every electronic return receipt that's sent out by the firm. And we really help them eliminate, laborious administrative tasks that really drag down an operation, either from an administrative standpoint or an accounting standpoint, or even obviously, from a standpoint of paralegals and things doing manual work. So all that is eliminated. So in the automation piece, we standardize all the processes throughout the entire firm. So no longer is one site doing it somewhat differently than another site. Every site is compliant to one process overall. And obviously, the accuracy in client billing and automating that process is a huge win for the organization as well. And then we move them to a monthly carrier bill. So instead of getting 72 invoices a month, they get one invoice a month from all carrier spend, be it DHL, FedEx, UPS, or Postal Service. We've taken those 72 invoices and made them one invoice overall. So we streamlined their accounts payable, which really was a significant win for the CFO. The CFO really honed in on that piece to really streamline the piece, the accurate billing side, and obviously the transparency of having it that way. So we've taken time to bring up a polling question for you. So is your firm experiencing any of the following currently? Total cost of sending packages and mailing is increasing overall. Sending and tracking packages and mail is really time consuming. And we're seeing a lot of that from an inbound standpoint and an outbound standpoint as firms are using more different carrier selections. A lot of folks now are actually looking more towards the United States Postal Service with priority mail, because priority mail gets delivered just as efficiently, if not even more efficiently, than UPS ground and FedEx ground. So we're seeing a lot of movement around that piece. Many invoices to review, to allocate, and recover shipping costs. Is that something that's happening within your firm today from a challenge? Need to increase operational efficiencies overall. So there is a focus around your organization to increase operational decrease inefficiencies and move forward and try to automate some of these processes to bring about accuracy and standardization overall. So you can check all that apply. It may be one, it may be two, it may be three, it may be all four. But if you take a minute to check which ones apply, we'd greatly appreciate it as well. All right. So taking a quick look at the results. A was the total cost of sending packages and mail is increasing. 60% said yes, it is overall. Sending and tracking packages and mail is very time consuming. 60% agreed to that point as well. Many invoices to review and allocate and recover shipping costs. There was 60% around that as well. So that's a triple crown there, right, Sean? How about that? And then obviously need to increase operational efficiencies. 50% of the folks said that was something they looked to do as well. So appreciate that feedback. So what can your firm do? How do we put the pieces of the puzzle together to help organizations improve on these areas overall? So the first thing we really want to work with and look at within any organization is really determine current state. So where are we today? So going back to that profile example, the CFO said, hey, we've negotiated with FedEx and UPS, had them both at the table, Tom, and we are, strictly a FedEx house, only to come to find out that, 6 of the 12 locations were still using UPS. So while, he was surprised by that a little bit, he wasn't shocked. He said trying to get folks to comply can be a difficulty overall. But if I had something to manage it from a standpoint of a simple user interface to manage all carriers, that would be effective. So obviously agreement around that. And really understand, what is your outbound carrier spend and what are the processes. So it may be that it's $100,000 a year, it may be $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, whatever it may be. Taking a look at that type of spend, and if you can make improvements to reduce cost in various ways and forms and fashions that we can review with you. If it's a 10% savings on, $200,000, it's $20,000 back from an operational standpoint. Things of that nature we look at with organizations. And also look at the certified return receipt process. Is it being done manually in one site? There's some automation around another site. Maybe you're using pre-printed forms at a third site. But the challenge is that they're important in that they're going out certified return receipt legally. So a compliance piece wrapped around a workflow that is the same at every location probably is something very important to most firms overall. And then obviously USPS accounting along with the carrier accounting, how is that being handled today? And is that something we can improve upon? And then last but not least, and this wasn't featured in the client profile file, inbound package tracking and the processes there, which we'll talk about shortly. And then we really never want to assume that, hey, that's the way we did it, so we just keep on doing it that way because, as a business society, the way we improve is to look at what we've done in the past to work to improve the future overall. And then seek out a professional in this field. We have many of our staff is absolutely fully trained against, if not all at this point, have done a lot of work around webinars, around the legal market, understand the processes, can walk through what they've commonly done for other firms to really get out the opportunity and really help you in an expedient manner address some of the things we discussed earlier. And really understand how we can improve the compliance piece. So compliance today in many firms has a strong focus. Again, what's the risk? How do we manage that risk? How do we measure it? And then how do we go forward? And putting applications and solutions in place to help with those workflows to improve compliance overall. Here we go. Sorry about that. So I want to talk a little bit about understanding what is the desktop carrier process. What does it look like today? So essentially, if you start left to right, a lot of firms have a single carrier strategy. Some have multiple carrier strategies. Some use regional carriers like Eastern Connection, Speedy, On Track, and organizations like that, or carriers, even local carriers. So there's a multiple choice opportunity or single choice opportunity filled with many different carriers and carriers overall. And then from a rating standpoint, how do they rate the packages? Is it fully accessible to all? Can anybody ship at any level? Can somebody do an 8 a.m. delivery when, in fact, that's a very costly function and feature of the carriers, same with Saturday delivery, or should that be restricted and limited overall? And is it compliant to the carrier contracts, meaning that you've negotiated with a carrier, you're going to be exclusive to that carrier, you're committing a certain amount of volume to get the discount. If you have other locations not using that carrier, you may be, in fact, risking those discounts overall, or even better, getting a larger discount had that spend been on the one carrier alone. And then the business rules, right? The services that can be used, the visibility, the accounting, the validation of client matter numbers, and authorization to do certain things like send something Saturday delivery or send something, 8:30 delivery if the need becomes the case. And then the last piece really is managing and monitoring that spend overall. And, whether it's carrier contract compliance, benchmarks, accounting and assignment, or AP reconciliation, a lot of what happens in today's environment is done without automation. So utilizing carrier-provided products and systems or carrier-provided websites, they're all unique in their own way and shape and form, and they all demand different types of updates when it comes to client, address information, carrier selection, and the like. So this can be a challenge for a lot of firms. So when you look at carrier solutions, the idea really is it's your carrier relationship But solutions like this help you manage that relationship from a standpoint of centralized data, instant rate comparisons on the carriers, address validation and verification, scalability, consolidated reporting, obviously automatic tracking, seamless integration with systems, and really standardizing in the workflow, which obviously provides compliance, right? And the idea there is to generate accurate chargebacks. So you don't risk the firm's reputation around invoicing somebody incorrectly overall. You reduce the spend associated with the carriers, eliminate manual processes, and maintain, chain of custody overall. And obviously, we talked about the green cards. So similar application also does electronic return receipt. So no more green cards, no more cards coming back having to be scanned. Everything is filed electronically with the post office. And plus, it also saves $1.40 with the post office overall. So there's a nice save around that piece as well. And then the other piece, with understanding the inbound side, a lot of organizations will use the picture on the left. They're using a logbook at the receptionist desk. They log in the packages manually. Perhaps somebody then goes around and gets them delivered, gets a signature. Perhaps you may take it a step further and use Excel. But all this is manual key entry, and this all can be automated. And maybe even send out emails manually that your packages are here for pickup at the front desk, the paralegals and lawyers and so forth. This is done most commonly today, the manual process. But there are ways around automating this piece as well. Automating through a similar software working on the inbound side. So from that standpoint, reduce risk of lost items, detailed reporting, eliminate human errors, eliminate the manual processes as well, and then maintain chain of custody overall, which provides compliance and structure around the inbound parcel management as well. So in summary, the best practices around implementing a standard tracking solution from a standpoint of an inbound side, but also from a carrier management on the outbound side. And the larger your firm, really, the more important those processes become. And meeting with many clients of different sized firms, they're usually surprised to see that some sites do it differently than the mothership, if you will. The home office has standards in place, but when they kind of move out to the field and start asking the questions about how do they do things at those individual locations, there's a lot of differentiation against what they thought was a standard procedure overall. And then obviously automating and streamlining process around carrier management really provides a competitive advantage from a standpoint for your firm, that you have these processes in place to make sure things are done in an automated, more efficient fashion overall, is definitely a competitive advantage and really helps around client critical information, but also provides employee-centric value as well. And carrier management, as it would be, really provides improved margins for your firm because you're streamlining the cost, you're making sure it's assigned at 100% as it should be overall. Any spend against the firm is done so in a very efficient, effective manner. And obviously that provides for revenue growth for the firm overall. And just to repeat, very important that you seek out a professional specializes in legal workflow and mail and parcel handling processes that can really help you take a deeper dive and a deeper look at your operations and therefore provide suggestions around the carrier management piece as well as the inbound package tracking piece as well. With that, Sean, I think we can open up for questions.
Sure, thanks, Tom. Everyone, I just wanted to remind you that we do have a couple of questions coming in, but if you have a question that you'd like to ask Tom, please just go ahead and use the chat feature located at the top of your screen. Make sure you send your chat to all panelists, and we'll be able to go ahead and get your question answered while we have Tom on the line. Tom, one of the things you had just mentioned on your last slide was, in particular, working with the larger firms. When you're working with a satellite office who sees the benefit of working with a solution like Pitney Bowes, what's sort of the process you take to help them manage up to, to the maybe perhaps the headquarters office for that firm to help sort of share the idea of postal management as a profit, an opportunity to look at how you're managing costs? How do you manage that up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've worked with firms that the initiation of taking a deeper dive and looking at their individual location really brought about change from the standpoint of the corporate side of the organization. By that, we were able to show from that location's activity and how we can improve their processes and reduce their cost overall. We were able to take that information and frame it up against similar sites that the firm had throughout the country, and then have a conversation at a C-level with the home office. And that gave us the ability really to justify, not only the fact that a lot of firms we work with will still look at it for their site alone and then they'll roll it out. This actually took it bottom up, and that's a great question, by the way, Sean. So bottom up really showed the firm that they should pay attention to this piece overall. And I've done that several times with firms overall. And from a standpoint of supporting that kind of operation, I still make plenty of field sales calls. I'm actually in Orlando for the next 2 days down here for a couple of events, but also stopping to see customers. And I have no problem supporting all of our field channels and working with them to really bring about change from a satellite to a corporate level. Great question.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. This question is, I think, we want to lean a little bit on some of your experience in terms of being a postal consultant. And one of the questions we've received is, the firm has issues with certified mail on a fairly regular basis. Is there any way to get our money returned for undelivered mail or mail delivered without signature?
Yeah, so if you're still, good question. If you're still using the green cards, and the signature is not obtained and the card comes back without a signature, you can go to the local post office and you can say, hey, this card came back without a signature, I'd like a refund. So it's $2.80 for the pleasure of taping a green card to the back of an envelope. So that would be something the local post office would handle overall. I will say that in the electronic return receipts, we see less of that as far as obtaining a signature. But sometimes you get spotty services out there. Overall, the Post Office does a great job, but occasionally there's an education opportunity. I just ran into one not so long ago where the local post office wasn't separating the electronic return receipt mail as it should have, and once we corrected it, the issue was done and over with. But if you can produce a green card that you show that went out and came back and was not signed, you would be due a refund, in my humble opinion, of $2.80. Electronic being $1.40 overall. Good question.
Very good. Tom, we have two questions that are similar. One is, how would this system make it easier to print labels? But then, just sort of to piggyback on that question, here's one that says, we have used priority mail and sometimes the machine jams and does not print out a complete label. Right. We have been charged for it and then have to redo the label, and they're charged a second time. How do we recoup the costs?
Yeah. So that's speaking more to the meter version of sending out a priority mail piece. In the software version, it generates the label on a plain piece of paper, which includes internet postage. So there's no mail machine involvement when you're using a software solution. If there's an issue with the label coming out of a postage physical meter, that can be taken again to the post office for 100% refund if that is the case. But if there's, definitely if there's an issue with the machine itself doing it on a fairly regular basis, please place a service call, and we'd be more than happy to rectify that problem. And it's likely a minor adjustment when it's happening. As far as carrier labels, Sean, today most of your paralegals probably print right to their own multifunctional devices, a UPS label or a FedEx label on a plain piece of paper and slip it in the envelope. It would be no different with a carrier solution that we offer that we're talking a little bit about today. So we print directly to multifunctional devices, as well as can provide, the mail center itself, if it's a larger mail center, a lot of activity. Similar label printers to print adhesive labels too, so we can handle all types of labels within our application, and we're certified to print labels for every carrier out there within our system.
Excellent. I think that was one of our next questions here is, can you print labels and track packages for every courier that the firm may use?
Absolutely can. So inclusive of even local carriers. So if you have a local 1-hour bike delivery, all we would need to be involved there would be understand their rates and what their rates look like. And those can be incorporated into our solutions as well. So we can, if you pay, X per delivery on a bike delivery, that can be incorporated in the application, accounted for back to a client matter number, and then reported back electronically for accounts payable to bill properly as well.
Oh, that's tremendous. Does that kind of go hand in hand with some of the localization technology that you had mentioned to me earlier?
Yeah, it has a little bit going on around that. So.
Very good. Okay. Here's one that says, what about internal projectors? Can it track that?
Yeah. So the inbound tracking solution can track any asset. So as long as you can put a barcode on something, similar to a UPS package has a barcode coming in, anything you can put a barcode on, you can track it as an asset. So that would even include client files. If you have barcodes in your client files, you could use the inbound tracking solution to scan that, assign it to a paralegal or a lawyer. Know that the lawyer has that piece or the paralegal has that file, and when it's returned to the file room, scan it again, and then it's put back in place, and you know where it's been, when it's been, and where it is right now. So if you went to the file room, we're looking for client matter for, Tom Hazel versus Sean here. We'll use us together here, buddy.
Okay.
You would know that, I have the file, and I've had the file since the 14th. So you even get that kind of a detail, how long I've had the file, how long I had the file out, what time and date did I return it, and things of that nature. So as well as it can track inbound packages, parcels, and documents, it also can track any type of asset with a barcode on it, including audiovisual equipment as well, evidence, you name it.
One quick question, Tom, is what booth number are you going to be in LA? And I think I can help you with that. It looks like Pitney Bowes is in booth 129, everyone who will be attending the annual conference. Next question, what steps should we take to go from using the green card to electronic certified return receipts?
Okay. So from a standpoint of electronic return receipt, our software solutions allow that you open up the application, you either select the address in the address book, and it generates a certified article number as well as a cover page. That cover page comes out of your printer just like a carrier label would, and that goes into a special double window envelope. And then that just gets metered at the mail center at the discounted rate, and the information is electronically submitted to the post office. So what happens is once it's delivered, the solution automatically goes out and retrieves the electronic return receipts, and they're in PDF form. So if you send out, for example, 50 this week and maybe 40 were signed for, you get a file back with 40 individual pages, 40 pages, and the application breaks those into individual documents and then names them by usually the client matter number, and then makes them accessible on a shared drive so anybody can access the electronic return receipts within the firm. This is a strong piece because if you're working on a case that has ramifications in 2 states, your access in a manual return receipt world is really to call that other location and say, hey, I can't find it in the customer's file, or I don't see it online. How do I get the return receipt? In this application, it's always and readily available to be looked up. Look up the signature right online, and then obviously print out the electronic return receipt as well. So it's a totally automated closed-loop process. And the other piece we see a lot once we install the products is that from a return receipt standpoint, no one really tracked them. So if you're sending them out manually, no one has the time, energy, or wherewithal to track every one that you send out. With an application like this that we offer at Pitney, it automatically tracks every return receipt that you send out, and it lets you know the current status of the post office. So the status may be that attempted to deliver, no one home, left notice, returning, left no forwarding address, refused. So you have all that information ahead of time. You'll likely know that piece is coming back to you as refused way before you ever get it back from the Postal Service from a standpoint of the manual versus the automated process. So there's some tools within the application to monitor, Sean, every time receipt is processed, and also obviously provide status updates as to delivery and signatures, but also provide status updates as to where it is at the current moment.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. Next question, and everyone, I just wanted to remind you, if, I don't know, on your screen right now, if you did have a question for Tom that you wanted to send him directly, Tom's email is right there in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. It's tom.hazel@pb.com. You'll also, just as a reminder, everyone attending right now, you will receive a recording of the webcast with audio, the visuals, the link to the PDF of the slides, and everything tomorrow. You can find it on, of course, Legal Marketplace. It'll be evergreen there for your use. Tom, this question is, could you please share a little bit more details as to the reconciliation of invoices and client cost centers?
Great question, Sean. Great question. So what we do is we import current active client matter numbers. And as client matter numbers are created, we have a task scheduler that automatically in the application goes out and looks for any updates to the client matter file. So that when anybody opens up the application within the firm at any location, and they enter the client matter number, we automatically validate that client matter number as being active and corrected 100%. So some firms, Sean, we do an update every 30 minutes. Some we do it every hour on the hour. It depends on how busy the firm is in creating client matter numbers. Obviously, when you create a client matter number, you feed other systems within your organization. So when we work with IT, they already create a file that actively updates many other different systems. Think about copier systems and phone systems and alike. So we just basically share that same type of file and update our application as well. So that when you're transacting and you need to do a UPS overnight on behalf of myself, you would select my or enter my client matter number in the system. The system automatically validates that it is correct. It also validates the address information is correct, so you don't get a charge for address correction issues. And then at the end of the day, week, month, whatever your billing cycles are, we then create an external file that lists all the carrier spend under every file, every client matter number that was processed in that time period for automatic upload into your systems overall. So it handles the full chain of shipping the product out the door, the package out the door, managing against the client matter, and then creating that external file to update the accounts payable side, all in an automated fashion overall.
Excellent. I seem to remember you guys were asking that question in the poll as well, and it seemed like overwhelming folks had lots of invoices to review. So yeah. So from an invoice standpoint, I'm glad you said that because I forgot that piece to kind of cover that last part. So from an invoice standpoint, what we did basically was we polled our clients several years ago and said, what do you like about how our postage functionality works? And basically, you download postage from Pitney Bowes, and we send you an invoice, and depending on when the billing cycle hits, you have 25, 30, 40 days to pay, depending on when your cycle hits and when you downloaded postage. And our customers came back to us and said, it's really a great feature. It really is. Overwhelmingly, they said, though, boy, if we could have the same thing for UPS and FedEx and DHL, it would be awesome. So at a high level within our organizations going to UPS and FedEx and DHL and the like, we said, hey, if we could manage this for you and we could pay on the client's behalf, would you be involved with that? Would you like that? And overwhelmingly, UPS, FedEx, and the like came back and said, yeah, we'd love it. So essentially, they bill us on your behalf as a firm. We pay on your terms, we pay on time, and we pay bulk and electronically to the carriers. So that gives us the ability then to take that spend and then apply it to your postage bill. We itemize it. We list out which postage, what's UPS, what's FedEx. We itemize it, make it available online electronically as well. And then we present you with one invoice. So instead of getting multiple invoices, you have, say, 3 locations.
So if you're UPS and FedEx, that's 6 invoices a week, which is 24 invoices a month. We break that down to one single invoice that also includes postage. Good question.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Tom, I think that's everyone's questions for today. We just wanted to take a moment and thank you and Pitney Bowes for joining us today. Was there anything else that you'd like to say to the audience before we wrap up?
Well, I would just like to thank everyone for their time. Time is so valuable in today's world, so I sincerely appreciate the time you spent with us today. And I do absolutely look forward to seeing everybody in Los Angeles. It looks like a great site, and it looks like a very solid speaker there. Damon's one of my favorites on Shark Tank, so I look forward to the keynote speaker as well. You didn't mention that. That's a good thing to mention, my friend. Good job.
That's true.
Oh, I think Sean lost audio connection, so we'll go ahead and end this. Thank you so much, Tom. It was a great presentation. Looked like Carolyn and Sean have both dropped. So we'll go ahead and end this. Did you have anything else that you want to say, Tom?
He just must have got excited about the keynote speaker. That was the issue, Regina.
Is that what it was? All right. We'll leave it at that because I'm excited about that keynote speaker as well. So thank you for your time. This concludes today's webcast. Thank you for attending. The recording will be available at legalmarketplace.alanet.org. We will send all registrants an email tomorrow with this link. And please visit our event calendar to sign up for future webcasts.